The studio lights flashed on. The crowd clapped loudly as the music faded. Prince Harry walked onto the set of The View for the first time in over a year. He smiled politely, nodded to the hosts, and took his seat between Sunny Hostin and Joy. The plan was clear. His team had prepared every answer. The focus was mental health, veteran care, and a new international initiative he'd launched for trauma recovery. No politics, no royal drama. It's just healing, hope, and honest work. But something didn't feel right. Even as the segment began, the air was tense. Joy Behar was grinning, but not in the usual friendly way. Her eyes looked sharp, calculating. Prince Harry felt it immediately. Sunny gave him a warm smile. Whoopi looked focused on her cue cards. But Joy leaned in first. "So, Harry," she said, her voice half playful, half provocative, "how does it feel to be the royal who broke the monarchy?" She paused just a second, then added with a smirk, "and then couldn't keep a podcast alive." Laughter from the audience came in short bursts, awkward, unsure. Some gasped. Others chuckled nervously. Harry didn't laugh. His body stiffened. He looked at Joy directly. His jaw tensed. His hands clasped tighter on his lap. "I didn't know trauma. Had a punchline here," he said quietly, but clearly. The room fell silent. Whoopi blinked. Sunny looked down at her notes. The energy dropped like a stone. Even Joy's grin faded for a moment, though she quickly recovered with a loud chuckle. "Oh, come on, Harry," she said. "You're still a prince. You're hardly struggling like the rest of us." That's when it happened. His eyes changed. What started as calm frustration turned into quiet anger. But not rage like people expected, not yelling or shouting. 'Twas sharper, controlled, focused. "You don't get to decide what struggle looks like," Harry said, his voice rising just slightly. "I walked away from a system that feeds on silence, that punished my wife for breathing, that buried my grief under centuries of tradition. And instead of hearing that, you're trying to package it as failure, just to fit into a 10-second segment." The audience didn't make a sound. "That's not journalism," he added. "That's cruelty with a smile." In the control room, the producers panicked. One shouted for commercial. Another waved frantically toward the director's booth. Joy Behar looked stunned. She tried to smile again, but it looked forced. "Well," she said, "you're certainly not shy." But Harry wasn't finished. He turned slightly to the audience and spoke with a calm edge. "They want a meltdown. It's the trick," he said. "Push, provoke. And when the guest pushes back, they call it dramatic. But here's the truth. I'm not melting down. I'm waking up." Was over. There was no going back. The segment was broken. The broadcast cut to commercial early, but it was already too late. Dozens of phones in the crowd had recorded every second. By the time the show resumed, Harry was gone from the set. The network issued a short statement claiming he had to leave for a prior commitment. Nobody believed it. Within an hour, raw clips flooded social media. Headlines exploded. Prince Harry shuts down Joy Behar. Royal interview goes off the rails on The View. Did Joy go too far? Some commentators praised Harry's calm but strong response. Others accused him of being too sensitive. But the internet was alive. The moment had hit a nerve. Then came something no one expected. A flashback. Hours before the interview, Harry had been in his dressing room, alone, preparing his final notes. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared on screen. "They're going to try to bait you. Don't take it." No name, no ID, just that. He had stared at it for a long time, showed it to no one, deleted it without replying. Now he remembered those words like a warning echoing in the back of his mind. Back on set, after the cameras had stopped, Joy Behar sat silently in her chair. No more jokes, no more smiles. The audience began to leave, whispering, shaken. Outside, social media turned into a wildfire. And somewhere, watching on a private screen, a man in a suit made a phone call. He spoke just one sentence. He didn't. Take the bait. We need to change the plan. The real story was only beginning. Ask ChatGPT. The clip of Prince Harry's sharp exchange on The View spread faster than anyone had expected. Within an hour, #HarryUnfiltered, #TheViewMeltdown, and #JoyCrossTheLine were trending across social media. Millions watched the footage edited, raw, and recorded from audience phones. It wasn't a Hollywood scandal or a royal PR event. It felt real. Two real news channels played the moment on loop. CNN's anchor called it an uncomfortable but necessary reckoning. Fox questioned whether public figures should be on talk shows at all. The BBC simply titled their report, "When Royals Speak Without a Script." Back at home, Harry sat silently in his kitchen in Montecito. Meghan entered with a cup of tea and placed it beside him. She didn't speak. She just looked at him. "I didn't plan to say any of it," Harry finally said. "But once she smirked at my pain, it all just came out." "You didn't say anything wrong," Meghan replied. "But they'll twist it. They always do." She was right. Joy Behar had already gone live on Good Morning America. Her tone was defensive, but polished. "If public figures don't want tough questions," she said, "they shouldn't agree to public interviews." When asked if she regretted the comment, she gave a diplomatic shrug. "I was doing my job." The media war began. Some praised Joy for holding a powerful figure accountable. Others called her cruel, outdated, and part of the reason mental health struggles were still misunderstood. But the story began to shift when The View's own staff started leaking information. A junior segment producer posting anonymously revealed that Joy's question was not spontaneous. It had been pre-approved. Worse, it had been inserted into the rundown just an hour before showtime. This wasn't a slip. The anonymous post read, "It was a plant." That same morning, Harry's team reviewed security footage and backstage records. A man dressed as a delivery technician had entered the studio hours before the interview. He claimed to be checking equipment, but he wasn't on the official staff list. He never made a delivery, and he left without signing out. Something wasn't. Right then, Meghan remembered the text, the anonymous warning. "They're going to try to bait you. Don't take it." Harry called his head of security. "Trace it," he said. By that afternoon, they had more than a trace. They had a pattern. The number that sent the warning text had also pinged cell towers near 3 other high-profile media incidents, one involving a tech whistleblower, another tied to a celebrity political donor. The third linked to a foreign journalist silenced just before airing a controversial story. Whoever this was, they were watching. And they weren't just trying to protect Harry. They had warned others too at the same time. Across the Atlantic, an investigative journalist in London named Priya Devlin was digging into a PR firm quietly linked to several recent media controversies. The firm Strategics Global had a strange portfolio. They didn't promote brands, they shaped public opinion. And one of their biggest clients, the production company behind The View. Priya had already written about Strategics' influence in shaping online narratives during Brexit. But this was different. She reached out to Harry's team with what she'd found. Emails, contracts, talking point templates. Sent directly to shows like The View, timed around news cycles. Focused on controlling the emotional tone of high-profile interviews, the documents showed that the royal narrative was being quietly crafted by external influence groups. Harry read the files with clenched fists. This wasn't journalism, he said. It was a hit. He looked up at Meghan. "I want to talk," he said, "on our terms." The next morning, a short video appeared on the homepage of the Archewell Foundation's website. Harry sat alone, no dramatic music, no heavy editing. Just him in a plain shirt in a quiet room. I didn't storm off, he said. I walked away. He spoke slowly, clearly, eyes locked on the camera. I've lost people. I've battled trauma. And I've really tried to heal, while being watched by millions. I sat on that stage to talk about healing. But they came for a headline. And when someone tries to make your pain into a punchline, you have two choices: stay silent or speak. The video was just over 2 minutes. It was watched over 50 million times in the first 24 hours. Mental health advocates rallied behind him. Veterans groups issued statements of support. Celebrities, some cautiously, some boldly, shared the video, adding their own stories of being misrepresented by the media. But as the world reacted, something else was happening behind the scenes. A message was intercepted by a cybersecurity firm working with Harry's foundation. A short encrypted command sent from a foreign IP address to the Strategic's global server failed to contain H. Move to Phase 2. No one on Harry's team knew what that meant yet, but someone, somewhere, was already adjusting the next step in the plan. The night after Harry's video went live, his Montecito home felt unusually quiet. Not peaceful quiet in the way a battlefield feels before the next attack. Megan was scrolling through hundreds of messages. Most were supportive. Few were hateful, but one stood out. It was a direct message from someone she didn't follow. No name, just a single sentence. They're not finished. Don't go near live studios. She handed it to Harry in silence. He didn't flinch. Watching our next move, he said. That means they're worried. Across the world, things were already moving. In London, journalist Priya Devlin was piecing together Strategic's Global's network. She uncovered offshore accounts, encrypted transfers, and named some linked to former MI5 analysts, others to American think tanks, and one especially disturbing: a quiet contract with a firm known to have ties to psychological warfare operations during conflict zones. They're not a PR firm, she told her editor. They're a narrative weapon. Meanwhile, The View tried to do damage control. Aired a special episode addressing the misunderstanding during Harry's interview. Joy Behar wasn't present. Whoopi read a carefully written statement. We regret the tone of last week's episode and support open, respectful dialogue. But behind the scenes, the show's producers were panicking. A whistleblower, a former intern named Mio, contacted Priya anonymously. She claimed that weeks before Harry's appearance, the show had received external consultation on how to reframe royal narratives for modern audiences. Joy's now infamous question had been on that list, was marked in bold. Harry's team requested a meeting with Mia. They flew her to California under high security. The meeting happened in a small guest house on the property, phones left outside. Windows covered? I was told not to question it, Mia said. They said it was just to make the interview more engaging, that Harry needed a little push. Who gave the list to the producers? Megan asked. I don't know. Mia said it didn't come through normal channels. It was emailed directly to the executive producer from a private server. She pulled out a flash drive. I copied it, just in case. On it were internal memos, edits, audience manipulation tips, and a chilling sentence under a section labeled contingency response. If subject reacts emotionally, pivot the narrative to instability. If subject disengages, activate character reframing. Megan's eyes widened. They were ready to twist anything he said, she whispered. Harry stood up, hands on his hips. They weren't trying to embarrass me. They were trying to destroy me. The team had one goal now: expose the whole system. But they needed more than anonymous tips and flash drives. They needed undeniable proof that this wasn't just about Mediate. Was international. That night, Priya sent them something else. A scanned letter, top secret. It had been leaked by a former European Union cybersecurity aide. The letter was from an intelligence agency in Central Europe. It was short, heavily redacted, but one sentence stood out. Maintain pressure on H target perception, not reality. Use domestic media assets. Avoid royal institution blowback. Harry stared at it for a long time. They called me H, he said, like I'm a threat, not a person. By now, the British press had caught wind of the growing story. Some tabloids claimed Harry was spiraling. Others pushed headlines about Meghan controlling the narrative. But for the first time, major outlets like The Guardian and Sky News began asking real questions. Who was funding the disinformation? Why were foreign actors involved? What did this have to do with Harry's trauma initiative? Then came the message. That changed everything. It arrived on the Secure Foundation line encrypted, traced to Switzerland. It was a short audio clip, a man's voice, British accent, slightly older. H, this goes deeper than you know. Joy wasn't the first. You're not the only one. They're running perception drills on global figures. You touched something? You're not supposed to. If you go public again, they'll escalate. Think bigger. Think the crown, not just the cameras. Harry played it 3 times. Then, in silence, he looked up at his team and said, "We go public." They prepared for the next Move On Open global livestream. Not through traditional networks, but directly to the people. They would show the memos, dot the footage, the money trail, dot everything but far away. In a dark office overlooking Washington, D.C., someone else was watching. A man in a suit closed his laptop. On the screen was a paused frame of Harry's video. The man leaned back, made a call and said, "The prince won't stop. Activate phase 2. The next hit wouldn't be on TV. It would be personal." Rain was falling over Washington, D.C. when the second strike hit. It didn't come through a headline, TV segment, or a tweet. It came through silence, a different kind of weapon. Story that never aired. A video that never made it to broadcast. But it was enough. Early that morning, major outlets began receiving an anonymous tip. Prince Harry's military record was under review. A document was attached, partially redacted, marked confidential, suggesting that several details of his service in Afghanistan had been misreported or overstated. None of it was true, but the timing was perfect. Within hours, social media swarmed with new attacks. Fake soldier, some shouted. Others pushed conspiracy threads linking him to classified operations. A trending hashtag emerged. #StolenValor. Harry's team responded quickly. The British Army issued a rare public statement confirming the accuracy of his record. Fellow veterans released messages of support. But the damage was done. The seed had been planted. "They're moving faster," Meghan whispered, reading the headlines from her phone. "They want the world to doubt your past before you speak again." Harry stared at the screen. Calm on the outside, but his fists were clenched. Across the ocean, Priya Devlin was already 2 steps ahead. She had tracked the fake document to a data firm in Estonia, one known for selling manipulated evidence packages to foreign-influenced networks. This firm had ties to the same group behind the Stratejic's global network. It was no longer just about Harry's TV interview. Someone wanted to erase his public trust entirely, step by step. Joy Behar was just the first domino. Priya contacted Harry's team. "I've traced the chain," she said on a secure call. "It's connected to a man named Ulrich Denhoff, former media strategist for Eastern European intelligence. Now he runs Black Ops for digital propaganda. Why target me?" Harry asked. "You broke their illusion," Priya replied. "When someone like you tells the truth, it makes the system look weak." As they spoke, Harry received another encrypted message, no text this time. Just a file name, Payne_audit_2007.mp, for the file wouldn't open. Their tech team tried everything: decryption tools, firewalls, forensic software. Finally, they cracked it. It was video footage, grainy, old, but unmistakable. A young Harry, maybe, 22 years old, pacing inside a tent in Afghanistan. He was in uniform, clearly distressed. In the background, another soldier was yelling. The audio was poor, but fragments were audible. You think you get special rules because of your bloodline? You mess up out here and we all die. Harry's voice, quiet but shaking. I didn't ask to be here. I just wanted to serve. Was real. It wasn't shameful, but it was raw, personal, never meant to be public. Where the hell did they get this? Megan asked, stunned. No camera was supposed to be in that tent. Harry muttered. But there it was, weaponized vulnerability. They didn't need to lie about him anymore. All they had to do was leak the truth out of context, twisted by headlines, swallowed by spin. Meanwhile, The View went fully silent. No follow-up coverage, no apology. No apology, no reference to Joy Behar at all. Rumors swirled that the network was under legal pressure. Insiders claimed a gag order had been issued from a partner organization with international legal interests. Then something unexpected happened. A letter arrived, not digital, but physical. No return address. It contained two things: a photocopy of a classified U.S. Department of Defense memo dated 2021, referencing a royal asset with international influence risk and listing Subject H in bold. A handwritten note. It was never about you, Harry. It was about what you remind people of. The cost of disobedience. By evening, the pressure hit new levels. 2 news networks pulled out of broadcasting Harry's upcoming live stream. Cited security concerns. Another admitted off the record. We got a phone call from someone above our level. Harry stood outside watching the Montecito sunset disappear behind storm clouds. His team gathered inside, preparing alternate broadcast options, independent servers, global relays, even a decentralized crypto stream. If needed, we'll still go live, said Megan. Even if it's just our own platform. But Harry was quiet, because in his pocket was a second phone, a secure one he rarely used. And on it, an unknown number had sent a live GPS pin. The location, a hillside cabin in the English countryside. One he hadn't visited in years. Below the pin was one sentence. They were watching even then. Harry didn't tell anyone. Yet, but deep down, he knew this didn't start with The View. It didn't start with Megan. Didn't even start with the palace. It started with something much older. Much deeper, something buried, and if they were willing to dig that far, into his past. Then the truth he was about to uncover wasn't just personal, it was dangerous. In the early morning fog of the English countryside, a black SUV pulled up to a forgotten hillside cabin. Prince Harry stepped out, alone. He hadn't been there in over a decade. The place smelled of wet wood and ash. It had once belonged to his late mother's friend, a journalist who vanished mysteriously in 1999 while investigating foreign intelligence manipulation in British media. The press called it an accident. Harry had never believed that. Inside the cabin, dust covered every surface. But the table in the back room was clean. On it sat an envelope sealed with wax and a USB stick resting beside it. The note was simple. If you're reading this, they've moved. You're not the target. They're afraid of what you remember. He slid the USB stick into his pocket. Back in California, Megan was on a secure call with Priya Devlin. The journalist had traced Strategix Global's payments to a series of shell companies registered in Qatar, Istanbul, and Zurich, all tied to media platforms accused of influence laundering. But one document froze her in place. It was a confidential invoice client. Crown's Sovereign Media Alliance Project Code. Black Swan Objective, Phase 3 Escalation. Subject HM Collapse Narrative Trust through personal psychological triggers. What is Black Swan? Megan asked. Priya hesitated. It's a term used in military disinformation circles. It means triggering a subject to self-destruct using truth, not lies. Psychological demolition. Megan processed this, Harry. Returned from the UK, he said nothing on the drive home. just handed her the USB stick. They watched it together. The footage was old. Grainy security tape from 1997. Harry was 12 years old, sitting beside Princess Diana on the balcony of a private resort in France. She looked tense. A man in a dark suit was speaking to her. No sound, but her face full of fear, then resolves, told the story. She pulled Harry close and said something to him. He nodded. The file ended with an audio recording dated the night before Diana's death. Her voice. If anything happens to me, Harry must remember what I told him. Not just about the press, about the deal they made after the war. Never forgive me for walking away. Harry sat frozen. I always thought it was about the paparazzi, he whispered. But it wasn't. It was political. Something she knew. They immediately called Priya. She confirmed a decades-old theory whispered among intelligence reporters. That after World War II, a secret pact had been made between Western media institutions and emerging intelligence groups to protect royal continuity in exchange for soft influence over public narratives. Most believed it was conspiracy fiction, but Diana hadn't. And now they were coming after her son for digging too publicly. Harry's planned live stream was now a security risk. Independent servers were compromised. One relay site in Iceland went offline. The company that offered to host their broadcast pulled out at the last minute, citing an unexpected cyber intrusion. We need to pivot, Meghan said. Go dark, go global. Not through networks, through people. They contacted whistleblowers, veteran groups, independent journalists, international students, TikTok creators, war survivors, mental health advocates. Not one corporation. No middlemen. They built a relay network in 48 hours, 200,000 independent nodes across the world. Ready to stream one message, but just as they were about to go live, Harry's phone rang. Blocked number. He picked up. The voice was familiar. British, tired, royal. Harry, it's me. It was his uncle. Prince Edward. You're not wrong, Edward said. But you don't understand what you're standing on. Don't help me understand. It wasn't about the monarchy surviving Diana. It was about the crown surviving the age of transparency. If you expose this, won't just bring down broadcasters. It'll bring down governments. There was a pause. We covered her, because the alternative was collapse. You mean the truth? Harry asked. Silence. Then Edward added, they'll come for Meghan next. You've changed the narrative, and they don't forgive that. If you go live, make sure your last words matter. The line went dead. Harry walked into the studio, looked at his team, pressed the button. A global notification pinged on millions of phones. The system isn't broken. It's built this way. Live stream starting now. And as the video began, with Harry's face lit only by a single studio light, hundreds of thousands tuned in. Then millions. He looked straight into the lens. My name is Harry. I am a son, a father, a veteran. But today I am just a citizen who refuses to stay silent. He paused. No emotion. No music, just truth. The people behind the cameras do not want you informed. They want you managed. But the world has changed. And so must the story we tell ourselves. Behind the camera, Meghan held up a cue card with 2 words, show everything. And so he did. The files, the footage, the voices, the network was about to break. In London, the sky was overcast as the global press gathered outside Buckingham Palace. Inside, silence reigned. The royal family had released a brief, cryptic statement. We acknowledge recent disclosures and will not be commenting further at this time. But the silence said more than words. By now, Harry's global live stream had passed 180 million views. Independent journalists across continents were verifying the leaks. Former military officers were confirming the authenticity of the Black Swan program. Even media hosts who once mocked him now looked rattled. The illusion was cracking. And so the final strike came not through violence, but through spectacle. Joy. Behar appeared on a surprise primetime special. It aired across U.S. networks simultaneously. She walked onto a dark set, dressed in black. Her tone wasn't mocking, it was somber. "The world has misunderstood," she said. "I never meant to provoke pain. I was following a format. I didn't know how deep it ran." She paused, then added, "But now I know, and I want to speak." Harry and Meghan watched it from their California home. Eyes narrowed because what Joy said next changed everything. She revealed that months before Harry's appearance, producers at The View had received editorial guidance from a firm called Modicite, claiming to be a media consulting group. It had sent talking points, questions, even pre-approved audience reactions. But there was no public record of this firm, she said. "And when I pushed back, I was told, play your part or be replaced." She looked into the camera. "I'm sorry." Then the screen cut to black dot, no credits, no outro. It was clear she had gone off script. Minutes later, social media exploded again. This time not just in Harry's defense, but in anger toward the systems that had enabled the spectacle. Hashtags like #Media Reckoning and #Black Swan Files surged to the top of every trending list. Meanwhile, at the United Nations, pressure mounted. A South African delegation called for an emergency panel on global narrative manipulation and psychological influence in democratic states. Brazil, Norway, and Canada supported the motion. The U.S. abstained. But the world was no longer waiting for permission. In Berlin, student protests erupted outside media headquarters, waving signs that read, "Truth is not a headline." In Nairobi, mental health advocates lit candles for survivors who'd been silenced by Spin. And in Karachi, an independent journalist broadcast a Mirror episode titled "How the Camera Lied," dissecting 20 years of manufactured consent by legacy networks. But not everyone wanted this truth. That evening, as Meghan tucked Archie into bed, Harry received a message from the secure line. A familiar voice. It was R, the whistleblower. "You've broken the seal," he said. "Now they'll start rewriting history faster than ever. They'll erase the original lie with 10 new ones. You can't win through the airwaves. Anymore, you have to protect what's real." "What's real?" Harry asked. "You, her, your story. The unedited one." He understood. They couldn't just expose the system. They had to preserve the truth in full. Offline. So they made a decision. The next day, they invited 5 of the world's most respected independent investigative journalists to their home. No networks, no streaming, no contracts. Each was handed the original documents, edited Black Swan files, the Diana footage, the leaked memos, the recording of Prince Edward, the corporate trails, and the timeline. And one final document, a letter, written by Diana. It was dated August 28, 1997, 3 days before her death. In it, she wrote, "I have spoken out before, but I've never felt truly heard. If something happens to me, I ask whoever reads this to remember. The power they fear most is not influence. It's truth spoken without performance, without polish, the kind only a child or someone who has lost one can carry." The journalists read in silence. Tears welled in one's eyes. None of them said a word. They nodded, packed their copies, and left. Within hours, independent documentaries began production. Publishers scrambled to serialize what would become a memoir, written account of the entire affair. But the moment wasn't cinematic. There were no explosions, no arrests. Just one final interview. Harry sat alone facing a single journalist. "I was raised to wave," he said. "To nod, to say nothing. But silence doesn't honor the people we've lost." He took a deep breath. "My mother died trying to speak plainly. I almost did too, but not anymore." The journalist asked him what he wanted now. He replied, "Not revenge, not relevance. It's just a world where grief isn't mocked. Truth isn't scripted." And media remembers it's meant to inform, not manipulate. The final shot wasn't of Harry, it was of Meghan, walking barefoot across the lawn, holding Archie's hand, guiding him toward a swing. The screen faded to black. One final sentence appeared. The monarchy ended the story, but the people rewrote it. In the first 5 minutes of the live stream, the server nearly crashed within an hour. Over 73 million people had tuned in across every continent. TikTok users clipped the speech in real time. Telegram groups shared encryption keys to mirror the stream. Subtitles appeared in over 20 languages. Prince Harry sat steady, revealing documents, footage, and testimonies from whistleblowers. He showed evidence of psychological manipulation strategies used by major networks. Memos marked Black Swan, footage of Diana warning him. Leaked lists from Strategix Global and its shell clients' proof of influence. Campaigns engineered to destroy reputations before they could challenge narrative control. He named no countries. No royals, no networks. But the names were obvious. The world watched spellbound in a studio not far from D.C. U.S. intelligence analysts were monitoring every frame. One agent turned to another. He wasn't supposed to figure it out, she said the reply. He wasn't supposed to remember. Back in California, Meghan stood behind the camera. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Messages poured in from world leaders, aides, activists, even quiet nods of approval from celebrities who had once stayed silent. But one message stood out. It was a video anonymous, encrypted. A man in shadow said, "You're winning the screen, but they'll hit the people. Be ready. They're done hiding." Within 30 minutes, the backlash began. CNN aired a panel warning of mass disinformation dressed as whistleblowing. FOX ran with Harry loses it on global stage. BBC said, royal heirs, global grievances. But none of it could. Stop the flood. Then came the counterleak. On a shady message board known for high-level drops. A file titled Archwell-Divergence.pdf appeared. It claimed that Harry and Meghan had been secretly funded by a rival influence group, playing they were the real manipulators. The file was full of doctored screenshots, fake bank transfers, and AI-generated voice clips. It didn't matter that it was fake. The point was confusion, discredit, distract, drown. Harry knew the pattern well. His mother had warned him. The same thing happened after her landmine campaign. Back in London. Priya Devlin went underground. A contact inside. Strategix tipped her off that her name was now on a soft neutralization list targeting reporters who disrupted cohesion. She sent one final message to Harry's team. They're trying to splinter global trust. This isn't about a prince. It's about who gets to shape memory. Back in Montecito, security was tightened. Cameras, gates, digital firewalls. But nothing could stop what happened next. It started with a single email to the Times, then another to Le Monde. Der Spiegel, Haaretz, Al Jazeera. Each one said the same thing. I was part of the program. I helped plan the Black Swan files. I want to come forward. The whistleblower signed the emails only as R. Harry's team made contact through a secure proxy. They arranged a meet-not in California, not in London, but in a small embassy office in Lisbon. Harry couldn't go himself. It was too risky. Meghan offered to go. Harry refused. So they sent Tyler, Harry's most trusted security advisor, and Mia, the former View intern who had become a quiet but powerful force in their research team. What I revealed was bigger than anyone imagined. Black Swan wasn't just a one-off media attack protocol. It was part of a multi-phase campaign run across 4 continents designed to preemptively destroy credibility of any high-profile individual who posed a systemic risk. Targets included journalists, whistleblowers, mental health advocates, veterans speaking against defense contractors, and yes, royals who walked away from approved traditions. Our provided names, dossiers, live logs, And then one final warning. Phase 4 is kinetic. The screen won't protect you. Back in California, Megan read the report and looked at Harry. They're moving off the internet, she said. Harry nodded, double quotes, we expected it. That night at 3:14 a.m., 2 black SUVs were spotted circling the perimeter of the Montecito home. Harry's team was ready. They had gone dark, no phone signals. No server traces, full offline lockdown. Inside, Harry sat at his desk, recording one last message. Not for live stream. Not for the public. This one would go to every major world leader, UN official, and human rights lawyer on the list Priya had assembled before she vanished. He pressed record. If you're seeing this, something has escalated. This isn't a royal story. This is a media war designed to crush dissent and rewrite memory. I have no crown, no title, just a voice and a record of the truth. He stared at the camera. If they silence me, I ask you to listen louder. He closed the laptop. Outside, the clouds rolled in over Montecito. The final move had begun.